Mounting that we could be headed to an election sooner rather than later, with the PM set to announce a new look cabinet on Sunday. Couple this with the fact that Albanese has been, well, particularly busy during the midwinter break, announcing candidates, and the prospect of an end-of-year election looks all the more likely. Joining me now to discuss this and plenty more, the opposition leader, Peter Dutton. Peter, welcome. Thank you so much for your time. Make a call for me. When do you think this election will be?
Look, I think it'll depend on when the Prime Minister thinks that he can win it, or if he thinks the economy is going to sour further. And I know a lot of people are really hurting in their budgets at the moment. People are finding it harder and harder just to keep their head above water. And so the Prime Minister will want to go before all of that becomes a bigger reality for Australians. So there is, I think, a real chance that we go this year, and we may be in a negative quarter. Interest rates may go up by 25 or 50 points, but every decision the government's making at the moment is just making it harder for Australians, and therefore you'd imagine the Prime Minister wants to try and cauterise that. But look, we're ready, and we can contest an election whenever it's called. But he's, look, let's face it, he's been in Parliament almost 30 years. He's a tricky politician. He'll run when he thinks that he can win, and if he thinks there's bad news on the horizon, he'll try and go before that bad news is heard by the Australian public.
Can you beat him at an election?
There's no doubt in my mind that we can beat him at the election. I think we have demonstrated ourselves as a united party. We've demonstrated that we have a level of bravery in terms of the policies that we've adopted. We took a position in relation to the voice, taken a position in relation to energy so that we can try and get prices down and make sure that there's reliability and not blackouts in the system. I think because of our unity, we've demonstrated that we are a credible alternative, and we've kept pressure on a bad government. And I also think on the other side of the ledger, it's obvious to all Australians now that Prime Minister may not be a bad person, but he's a shocking Prime Minister, and he can't make decisions that ultimately are in the best interests of our country.
On the cabinet reshuffle that will occur this weekend and announced, we believe, on Sunday, obviously Andrew Giles, Claire O'Neill would be a little bit nervous. Anyone else you think? And what's your advice to the Prime Minister in terms of what he should do?
Well, clearly you can't release 150 criminals from detention and then it turned out that you didn't need to do that. And so I really think Andrew Giles's position is completely and utterly untenable. So he should go. That should be the first test for the Prime Minister, and not just parachuted into another portfolio. He needs to go. There's no way in the world the Prime Minister could credibly have Andrew Giles in a ministry, given what he's done so far. And Claire O'Neill, of course, is the co-conspirator to all of that. I think there's a lot of speculation at the moment around Murray Watt moving into the immigration portfolio. But have a look at Murray Watt's track record when it comes to border protection matters. He's spoken against Operation Sovereign Borders, against tough border security. He's basically just a clone of Andrew Giles. So you can change the salesperson, but you're still having them read from the same script. They're weak on borders, and people are getting to our mainland at the moment. The Labor government has no idea who they are.
You mentioned the fact that your party is unified, and other people have attested to that. Michaelia Cash was on this show a little while ago saying of all her decades in politics, it's the most unified. Will you make any changes to potentially react to his?
No, I made changes back in March. I had a couple of changes, brought Melissa McIntosh in to the front bench, and she's a great talent, and I'm really happy with the team that I've got. So I don't feel any pressure to make any changes, and I think the focus is on the government at the moment because they're a bad government and they've had 2 years, and I just don't think there's any Australian who could say that they're better off today than they were when Mr Albanese was first elected. And could you imagine where our country will be in 3 years' time? I really think the government has demonstrated they're just not up to the task.